When going out for a drive, you usually try driving safely as you're trying to make it from point A to B and back. However, this is not the case for everyone. And we're sure that everyone has at least seen a crazy driver going way over the speed limit and even getting into some horrific accidents. But what happens when a drive goes beyond just reckless? When it becomes a dangerous game, where the stakes are life and death, not just for the driver, but for everyone around them. For some, the thrill of speed and danger can lead to disastrous consequences. And that's exactly what unfolded in the quiet town of Antioch, California. On the early morning of August 6th, in the quiet town of Antioch, one young man's thrill-seeking adrenaline turned into a nightmare. This is a story of Chase Allen Cancilla and how a seemingly ordinary night spiraled into chaos. Chase's young life was very simple. He was like any ordinary teenager, navigating school, spending time with friends, and dreaming of the freedom that comes with adulthood. During his teenage years, he was seen to be in love with vehicles according to his Facebook posts. He was really passionate about putting motorcycles to their limits and getting his hands on any vehicle he could. This lure of excitement and thrill began to pull him in a different direction. In August of 2023, Chase was invited to participate in an illegal car slideshow. People were showing off their cars and doing burnouts on the street. The air was thick with the smell of burning rubber, and the night echoed with the roar of engines. For Chase, this was a chance to prove himself, to feel the rush of being at the center of it all. Surrounded by cheering crowds and revving engines, he couldn't resist the temptation to join in. Chase revved his engine, feeling the power beneath his hands, the vibrations coursing through him. The crowd watched with eager eyes, waiting for the next thrill. He floored the accelerator, sending his car into a tight spin, tires screeching as smoke billowed around him. The noise was deafening, the smell intoxicating, and for a moment, Chase felt invincible. But the thrill of the moment was fleeting. As he pushed his car harder, trying to impress the crowd with every turn and burnout, control began to slip away. The pavement blurred beneath him. The lights of the spectators became streaks in his vision. And then, in a split second, everything went wrong. The car lurched violently to one side, careening off course and heading straight for the edge of the crowd. Panic spread as people scrambled to get out of the way, but it was too late. The car plowed through, striking several bystanders before crashing into a nearby vehicle. The screams of the crowd replaced the roars of the engines, and the once thrilling atmosphere turned to chaos and fear. Chase's night of excitement had turned into a nightmare, and the consequences of his actions were about to come crashing down. Chase's heart pounded with fear and adrenaline. The realization of what just happened hit him like a ton of bricks. The once cheering crowd had turned into a scene of chaos, with people rushing to help those who had been struck, and others frantically dialing 911. Panic set in. Without thinking, Chase flung open the car door and ran away from the scene. He could hear the distant wail of sirens approaching, growing louder with each passing second. His mind raced as he sprinted down the street, his footsteps echoing in the night. He didn't know where he was going. He just knew he had to get away. He kept running, his breath coming in ragged gasps, hoping that somehow he could outrun the consequences. But deep down, he knew there was no escape. As he rounded another corner, the flashing lights of police cars lit up the street, and Chase's flight came to an abrupt end. Surrounded and with nowhere left to run, he was forced to face the reality of his actions. The night that began with the promise of excitement and recognition had ended in disaster, and now Chase was about to pay the price. Chase knew he had no choice. Slowly, he lowered himself to the pavement, his mind racing with the reality of what was happening. The thrill of the night had turned into a nightmare, and now he was face down on the cold asphalt, surrounded by police. Within moments, the officers were on him, cuffing his hands behind his back. The weight of the handcuffs were heavy, but not as heavy as the realization of what he'd done. He could hear the distant murmurs of the crowd, the shocked whispers of bystanders who had just witnessed the terrifying event. Chase was hoisted to his feet and led to a waiting patrol car. The flashing lights reflected off the shattered glass, and twisted metal left in his wake. At the station, Chase was booked on multiple charges: reckless driving, felony hit and run, and causing serious bodily injury. As the charges were read out, the gravity of his situation began to sink in. This wasn't just a bad dream. This was real, and there was no going back. The magistrate set his bail at $191,000, a staggering amount that echoed the severity of his crimes. He was no longer just a young man chasing excitement. He was an inmate facing serious charges, with his future hanging in the balance. The night had begun with the roar of the engines and the rush of adrenaline, but it ended in silence, with Chase alone in a cell, awaiting the consequences of his choices.